Hello, BookTube. Well, at the very end of the day, the light is fading on a day that reached almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit here in Boston for the first time, and I can't remember how long. I felt warm. And at the end of the day, the mail did arrive again, and I've been without you for a few days, so I thought we'd open that too. I promise it won't be 6 videos tomorrow, but I missed you. So let's see what kind of trouble we can get into for just this batch here, and then I promise there'll be no more videos today. Oh, okay. I think we saw this before. This is the finished copy of something that comes out. It's out already, I think. I think we saw the advanced copy of this. This is Ruth Joffrey's Night Beast and Other Stories. Collection of magical realism from Grove Atlantic. Okay, so I'm gonna have to find out. I'm gonna have to find out if I do have an earlier copy of this, or maybe I'm forgetting. Let's see what else we've got. There's a lot of cardboard in this. Which, if this were Thomas's channel at SFF 180, that would mean I was getting a bumper crop of science fiction and fantasy from Tor. But they don't send me stuff. Let's see here. Okay, Princeton University Press. Very good. So this comes out in June. This is by Michael Robertson. It's called The Last Utopians, 4 late 19th century visionaries and their legacy. The Last Utopians delves into the biographies of 4 key figures: Edward Bellamy, William Morris, Edward Carpenter, and Charlotte Perkins Gilman, who lived during an extraordinary period of literary and social experimentation. The publication of Bellamy's Looking Backward in 1888 opened the floodgates of an unprecedented wave of utopian writing. Morris, the arts and crafts pioneer, was a committed socialist whose News from Nowhere envisions a workers' Arcadia. Carpenter boldly argued that homosexuals constitute a utopian vanguard, and Gilman, a women's rights activist and the author of The Yellow Wallpaper, wrote numerous utopian fictions, including Herland, a visionary tale of an all-female society. And this is a study of them all together. Wow. Okay. I've read quite a bit about 3 of these 4, but not Edward Carpenter. I might go to those chapters first. Are they separated chapter by chapter, or is it all just one narrative? No, they're separated chapter by chapter. Yeah, Edward Carpenter's Homogenic Utopia. I might go to that first and learn about him before I go on to the others. Although I'm always up for reading more about Charlotte Perkins Gilman. She's a fascinating figure. One of those writers where the more you know about her, the more interesting she gets. But let's see what this what these big surfboard things are. Let's see what they are. Okay, this is from Oxford University Press. Okay. I don't have any real cover to show you. This is An American Odyssey, the life and work of Romare Bearden, who is widely celebrated for his large-scale public murals and collages. This is by Mary Schmidt Campbell and is a definitive new biography of one of the most important American artists of the 20th century. I don't think I can tell you 3 things about him. So, and this biography could not be better timed. I don't think I could tell you 3 things about this person. What is it about 2018 and biographies of people who I have never read a biography of before? What is it with the unconventional biographies of this year? I love it. I'm not complaining, but still. Let's see here. Romare Bearden's life intersected squarely with the battle over representation of black experience in America. He spent his childhood at the heart of the New Negro movement in New York City. He began his career as a cartoonist during his college years, and in the late 1930s turned to painting and joined the community of artists supported by the WPA. As his reputation grew and he perfected his skills studying European masters and finding new ways of applying them to the America that he knew, one in which the struggle for civil rights became all-absorbing. By the time of the March on Washington in 1963, Bearden had begun to experiment with projections, as he called his major collages, in which he tried to capture the full spectrum of the black experience from the daily grind of life to broader visions and aspirations. Okay. All right. This is going to intersect quite a bit with the New Negro, which I read and loved last year. Or earlier this year, rather. Let's see here. So Mary Schmidt Campbell is president of Spelman College and Dean Emerita of the Tisch School of Arts. She served as the vice chair of the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities under former President Barack Obama. Okay, so this comes out in September and is a full-length life of someone of whom I have never read a biography before. And this is like the 15th time that's happened in 2018. Wonderful. All right, let's see what this next one is. Okay, this is from Minotaur Books. Comes out any day now. It is A Howl of Wolves by Judith Flanders. Sam Clare figures she'll be a good sport and spend a night out at the theater in support of her upstairs neighbors, who have small parts in a play in the West End. Boyfriend, a Scotland Yard detective and all-round good sport Jake Field, agrees to tag along to what is apparently an extra bloody play filled with dramatic, gory deaths galore. So Sam expects an evening filled with faux fatalities, until, that is, the curtain opens on the second act, revealing a dummy hanging from the rafters who's been made up to look suspiciously like Campbell Davison, the director of the production. I've known many a theatrical production that would have loved to do something like that. When Sam sees the horrified faces of the actors on stage, she realizes that this is indeed not a dummy, but Davison himself, and this death is not part of the show. Now everyone wants to know who killed Campbell Davison. As Sam learns more about the murdered man, she discovers that he wasn't at all the well-liked amongst the crew. So the suspect list grows. The show must go on, but Sam knows a murderer must be apprehended. So she sets out to find out what happened and why. Okay. All right. So who is Judith Flanders? That name sounds awful familiar. New York Times bestselling author of The Invention of Murder, and one of the foremost social historians of the Victorian era. Okay, who wrote The Victorian City? Okay, great. All right, so she's a historian, and this is her a murder mystery by her. And I don't know. I always assume that people who write murder mysteries read murder mysteries and know all about the history of the genre. The history of murder mysteries in which a murder takes place as part of a theatrical production and is discovered during the stage production is very long. There have been very, very many murder mysteries that way. I have to assume that Judith Flanders does not think that's the killer gimmick discovery of the century. I have to assume she knows she's writing in that long tradition. And I wonder if she'll give nods to some of those works, because some of those mysteries are among my favorites. That's fantastic, though. Okay. I don't quite know how it would work in a modern novel with surveillance cameras backstage. It's a lot of work to string up a dead body. It's not anything you can do in a minute. Well, it makes me more interested to read the book. So let's see. What is this next one? What on earth? Okay, this this comes out in September. This is by Roberto Saviano. And it is called The Piranhas, subtitled The Boy Bosses of Naples. That's Jason Purcell on the cover with a gun. We all knew it would come to this. All right, this I got it here. When Italian journalist Roberto Saviano's book Gomorrah, I read Gomorrah, was published in 2006, it instantly turned him into both a best-selling author and a marked man. An expose of organized crime in Naples, Gomorrah led directly to arrests, then to a hit being taken out on Saviano's life. In the decade plus since, he has lived under continuous police protection. I did not know any of this. How fascinating. The threats, however, did not quiet Saviano's voice. Gomorrah has had a long and rich publishing life, which has seen the book released in a dozen countries around the world and translated to both stage and screen. Saviano followed his debut with 000, an investigation into global cocaine trade, and now FSG is thrilled to announce the U.S. publication of his third book, Piranhas, which we will release in a translation from the Italian by Anthony Sugar, who's really good. He's really good, in September. Where Gomorrah was a novelistic work of investigative journalism, Piranhas approaches the same subject matter in a different literary form. The story of an audacious group of kids who willfully turn themselves into legitimate players in the Naples criminal underworld. The Piranhas is a gripping work of fiction that was directly inspired by fact. Oh, this is going to be a movie. You can just tell this is going to be a movie. Nicholas Fiorillo, known as Maraja to his friends, is a typical teenager in many ways. He plays video games and posts on social media, hangs out with his girlfriend, enthuses about designer clothes and goods. But what drives Nicholas more than anything is ambition. Inspired by Machiavelli and the lavish lives of the crime bosses he admires, Nicholas strategically molds his group of friends into a full-fledged gang. As Nicholas and his group begin to take over more of the city's drug market, they play a brash game of politics with the city's old guard, enriching themselves in the process, but also turning themselves into targets. Oh, this is going to be a movie. This is so much going to be... It was already made into a movie, but it's going to be made into a Hollywood movie. If Hollywood doesn't already know about this English language translation, somebody needs to tell them, because this is just... Oh. Okay, great. Fantastic. Well, now I very much want to read this. I want to bump it and read it long before September. And I might like to reread Gomorrah. I had no idea that had such a seismic effect on the guy's life. That's incredible. Anyway, we'll wrap up for now. This last one here. Okay. What have we got here? Okay, this comes out any day now, mid-May. This is review copy, not for resale. I'm assuming that's the title because that's the most prominent thing on the cover. There's some fine print called Standoff, How America Became Ungovernable by Bill Schneider. So I guess that's the subtitle. Bill Schneider, a leading political analyst, has covered America's politics and every presidential election since 1964. Oh, my Lord. With review copy, not for resale, he delivers a work of incisive history and fresh reporting about the tumultuous American political landscape today. The keen analysis of the book contains sharp and revealing observations, not just from the author's personal experience covering politics, but also from the people he met and interviewed, ranging from a Catholic prelate to a Hollywood star, patrons of the inner-city barbershops, and NASCAR fans. He traces 50 years of presidential contests to explain how America has arrived at this political standoff. He reveals the forces that determine election outcomes, like the head-snapping shift from Barack Obama to Donald Trump. Schneider traces the roots of the nation's cultural civil war to the 1960s, when a new America began to stir and a ferocious backlash emerged among the old America, which has roots in this country's uniquely religious culture. The division became more than a conflict of interests. It became a conflict of values. Okay, that sounds fascinating, and it sounds ambitious. Too ambitious. Nobody wants to look at the simple explanation for the ultra-vicious, I hate you and want to kill your family, depending on who you voted for, mentality of America in 2016, 2017, 2018. It has a simple explanation, and nobody wants to look at the simple explanation, and instead they want to go back to, what was it? The nation's cultural civil war in the 1960s. Actually, the simple explanation is Facebook. And that's the long and the short of it. I was utterly amazed. Just utterly amazed. I wasn't too surprised. I was utterly amazed that Congress let Mark Zuckerberg off, that they let him go when they questioned him, instead of really grilling him. This guy is more powerful than anyone on earth, and his motives and goals are entirely close to his vest. He's not open or confessional about any of them. He's not accountable to anybody, including all of the men in that chamber, any one of whom could be voted out of office tomorrow if this guy so much as said so. Is so much as manipulated one algorithm on the website that he has total control over. It's just Facebook. America's had political divisions forever, and they've been strident political divisions. But right now, if somebody voted for the candidate that you didn't like, they voted for Hillary Clinton, even though you think she fainted, or whatever it is, there are plenty of people who will think that your death and the death of all your families is perfectly acceptable as punishment for voting for her, and of course, vice versa. So And that is totally new. That completely strident religious toxification of any kind of disagreement is totally new. And that comes from social media, mainly Facebook. But I wonder, let's see. Let's see. I can't believe you. He's a leading U.S. political analyst and professor at the Schar School of Policy and Government at George Mason University. And he's been a visiting professor at UCLA, Brandeis, and Boston College. But all I want to do is say, book a trip to the Bahamas. If you've covered every presidential election since 1964, you really ought to take a break. But let's see, just out of curiosity, let's see how big a presence Facebook has in the index. In the index. Let's see what we have here. According to the index, Facebook is not mentioned in this book. So we shall see. We shall see what it's like. Kind of strange, though. The subtitle, Standoff, How America Became Ungovernable, seems like a better title for this book than Review Copy Not for Resale. That's kind of strange. But I guess the publisher knows best. One way or another. This comes out any day, and I am, of course, immediately intrigued. I love. I wouldn't say love because my emotional reaction has been all over the map, but I have read all of these urgent sociological studies that have come out in the last calendar year, and I can't get enough of them. Even though I think a lot of them are wrong, I can't get enough of them. And this one is written by the mother of all experts, so I think probably first. Right? Probably first. I mean, it's out already. If I'm going to review it, I need to have it under my belt and digested soon. So probably I will read this tonight. And that does it. That is the last video you're going to get from me today. So we have Review Copy Not for Resale. We have the Piranhas, the boy bosses of Naples. I swear, the two of these together, I want to read them right now. Let's see here. A Howl of Wolves, in which the dream of theatrical companies all over the country actually happens. The director is killed on opening night. An American Odyssey, the life of Romare Bearden, an artist about whom I know almost nothing. The Last Utopians by Michael Robertson, about 4 utopians living roughly contemporaneously, and the last ones of their kind. And then Night Beast and Other Stories by Ruth Joffrey, which I need to look up and see if I actually have a previous copy. But in the meantime, that's it. The sunlight's fading. You're fading. You've had enough. You've been beaten to submission by this endless barrage of Steve videos. I'll ease up for now, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Book 2.